Well, it was interesting. I found that um, I kept thinking about my classmates and who they might be with the different countries. Every step of the way, I was like, well, who is that? So if that country thinks that way, that might be someone from my class that used to be like this in class. And it was hard to get past it was hard to think about it as they're not someone that I already know. They're not, any preconceived notions, but it kept creeping in on the background for me. What about you? What did you think about
I guess when I was applying, I was trying my best to, since I learned in class really the topic of trying to salvage relationships, and that being relationships is like usually the best thing. I was trying to do my best to both. We also learned to sometimes to reach our goals, we need to anchor down on a certain topic. So as representative of Italy, I tried to anchor down on the importance of tourism and getting funding, while at the same time trying to keep a generous relationship with the other EU countries. And another thing I learned is that I cannot fall apart, like personally I cannot fall apart when someone stonewalls me.
that? You cannot, or you need to make sure that you don't.
I need to make sure that I
Oh,
don't
okay.
fall apart. Well, because sometimes I did, and I'm just like, once I hit a brick wall, I was like, and then the negotiation just stopped from there. So
Mhm.
I guess one thing I learned is to help go around that wall and bring up other topics in order to move on. Otherwise, a negotiation, I don't want the negotiation to freeze to a halt just because we reach one obstacle. That's one thing I think I learned from this class.
Well, that's a really good attitude to take about it too, because, and that's again the point of the class is that we run up against these challenges, and then we're able to imagine our ways that we can work around it. And what better place than in our classroom setting or in this Zoom setting um, to learn that. And then, when we do actually have to do that in person or in a real business situation, that you can draw on that experience. So that's pretty cool.
I guess one last point I'd like to put in, and I'm not trying to insult anyone when I say this, but like not everyone is as is as focused on the numbers as I am. So I
Oh,
cannot just spit out a bunch of numbers and expect everyone to keep up with me. Like even if I have it in an Excel file, like I can't just spit out numbers. Not everyone will keep up with me. In fact, even with this project, I mean, well, not this project, Icons project, but another project we had earlier in the class, where there were like 11 scenarios, each with different numbers. I had trouble myself trying to figure out which was the most economically optimal for both me and the other person. So I guess I should definitely tone down a bit on just spitting out numbers and
mm-hmm.
expecting to just beat people over with numbers and thinking that hard facts is going to win the conversation. Because I mean, if we see what happens in America right now, hard facts don't always get you the results you need. So
Well, I got to tell you though, you and some others in our class who can do the numbers. I'm so impressed with that because I am not the numbers person. And I struggled to keep up with, I know which project you're talking about with all those numbers. I really struggled to keep up, but another teammate of mine on that, she was just rocking the numbers on her end. And so she had her spreadsheet going, and then she was filing, giving all the information in. I couldn't even keep up with it. So I was just trying to keep the conversation going until she spit out what the right number needed to be. So it's interesting how you want to get people with different backgrounds and different strengths on your negotiating team as well.
I guess just looking at the Icons website, like at first it was hard because I was trying to relate the Icons website to the COVID situation. It didn't have that much information about it. Um, but there was some relevant information on the Icons website. It gave a ranking of the different countries based on economic freedom and tourism. And since we were Italy, I saw that like comparing to the other countries, we were like last in like in several categories. And the
Right.
only category we were actually good in was tourism. And even then we were only a 3. But the fact that our only good category was our worst category for the situation of COVID, because COVID basically turns tourism to a weakness. You're just inviting more people to infect your country and your economy. And so you either stop tourism and your economy plummets, or you allow tourism, but then your country's sickness like plummets. So like it's a lose-lose situation. And so like and so that was that was like the main issue I tried to focus on, was that like Italy is a poor country, and our only saving grace is our tourism, which doesn't help us in this case.
Right,
So,
I agree. It was interesting. I feel like this whole project, we were lucky because there was so much current news and information accessible to us to do our research. So not only were we able to get good background history on all the countries, but you know, the fact that we represented Italy, and Italy was one of the hardest hit countries early on, they already had a pretty solid history, to go by what they did right, what they did wrong, you know, the early shutdowns versus the larger shutdowns that they did later. And so I feel like this particular topic, our country's position, we were able to do the research not only from the icon site, but additional information that was so prevalent for us to find. I had a hard time getting started in the simulation for sure. I didn't know what to expect. Um, while we got, we had a great video that gave us the explanation of how we were going to trickle down this project. Within the simulation, it seemed hard to kind of get started, to get the other countries started, to get us all kind of on the same page. And so I feel like we were kind of slow to start. And I think the whole group, our whole class, was a little slow to start on the project. And because it was slow, I really had a hard time embracing it or getting into it, and not knowing what to expect. I don't know how that would have been different if we were in a classroom setting. Maybe if we were all in the room discussing it, it was on the board, and then we were all on our laptops figuring it out together. I think that might have been a little bit different. Through that discussion time last week, I felt like that kind of opened up and made me understand the whole program better, and how we were going to get to the next step. And so while it was a lot of information to grasp, but I feel like we exponentially advanced during our class last week on the project, and understanding kind of how it interacted and how it worked. What about you?
I guess I agree with like practically everything you said. This question though was asking more of the strategy for how we communicated in the simulation.
But but I took it as, and again, you can take a question in any direction, but because if we have a strategy, say you and I had a strategy to say, okay, let's go in, but if nobody's in there to talk to us or strategize with us, then I just felt like we had a hard time getting there just to even get started.
That is true.
So what do you think about the strategy, taking it to the next step?
I agree. Like I said, I agree with like the fact we had trouble, and then once we finally got everyone settled down, and like actually started to communicate, like I said earlier, we were really just trying to, I guess, anchor down on the whole. We need to get funding, and we need tourism to open up, and we tried to sympathize with countries that agreed with us, like France and Spain. The problem that happened was that the shark of the whole conversation was Germany, and he was like, and they were the main opponent, and they also had a lot more power because not only were they were one of the strongest countries, but they were also the, I don't think mediator is the right term, but they were the like speaker of the house.
Well, since Merkel is the current head of the EU, they immediately took the leadership role. And that's understood and makes a lot of sense. And actually, that was great that they did that, because that did help drive everything through.
Yeah. So, but the problem was that like like it's one thing to be facing an opponent, but it's another thing to be to when your opponent is the leader of the group per se. So
Mm-hmm.
we had to be like really like somewhat passive in order to not anger the one with the most power. You know, we don't want to
I agree.
bite off the hand that feeds us. So we had to be like really passive while still implying that we need help. So
I
like
agree. That's
one
a
thing
great observation.
and one thing that like didn't work is that we couldn't just say, hey, we needed help, because Germany was quick to focus on the fact that Italy has requested help in the past before, and we're currently in a lot of debt. And so like just being like called out by that like really threw me off my game.
Agreed.
Like I said, one of the main problems I had in question two was like if I reach a stone wall, I just kind of freeze up sometimes and have to learn to go around that. So I was really trying to like keep myself from getting angry at Germany, because they made good points, but like they made it in a somewhat insulting way,
It
and
was
so
kind of,
that hit my pride a bit, and
it
that
was a
made it
little
somewhat
passive
difficult to
aggressive, I
do.
think. It was a little passive aggressive. I don't know if we were just sensitive.
Yeah, so I guess like being completely passive definitely didn't work, but I wouldn't say it didn't work in our favor. We had to make sure to defend ourselves when we were attacked by Germany, and so that we did right, because we couldn't
Mm-hmm.
be completely passive, because if not, Germany was just going to make it so we didn't get any money whatsoever.
Right.
So I
Right.
guess that was our strategy, was to we anchored down and we were passive but not too passive.